Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind2Mind. I'm Tiffani Neilson, and with me is my incredible co-host, Dr. Joe Perez. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
Hi, Tiffany. I am doing great. Thank you so much for asking. I'm enjoying life and really happy and excited about the amazing mystery anniversary trip that I took with my sweet wife Diana a few weeks ago. And I think I probably got a bigger kick out of all of the different surprises for her that I had kind of baked into the trip than out of the whole trip itself. We had a blast. I'm also looking forward to speaking at MIT in the middle of this month. It's the 17th annual CDO IQ Symposium. They're expecting probably between 1,100 and 1,200 to attend. Lastly, I was featured in an article in last month's Digital Chronicle magazine. They also selected me as thought leader to be featured in their upcoming book called Innovations in Digital Transformation. I'm still in shock over the whole thing. I can't believe it. It's a big honor for which I am profoundly grateful. So, how are things going with you, Tiffany?
Things are going great, but first of all, congratulations. And second of all, where was the mysteries trip to?
Well, thank you. You're so sweet to say that. The mystery trip was to Myrtle Beach. We had a great time. Yeah, if you haven't been, I strongly recommend it. They've got so many different things. One night we went to a pirate show. It was a dinner show with pirates doing all kinds of antics and acrobatics and aquatics and everything else. It was just a wonderful show, and you get a huge dinner with it. And we also got to go on two cruises, not one, but two cruises. They were only about 3 hours apiece, but still, they were cruises. One was a dolphin cruise, and the other one was a dinner cruise on a real live paddle boat. And I mean the paddle boats that are driven by the paddle wheels, Mark Twain type thing. It was just gorgeous. We just had an incredible time. The most important thing, of course, was being with my sweet wife. That's the thing that I enjoyed the most.
Well, thanks for that clarification, Dr. Joe, because for a second I thought you said cattle boat, and I was wondering how these cattle were steered boat. So
That's
thanks
pretty
for
good.
clearing that up for me.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm super excited because I am about to be a mom, a first time mom.
Yay.
So I am super excited. And my little boy will be entering the world any moment now. So I just cannot wait. And additionally, I don't think there's any news bigger than that, but we are gearing up
No.
for our Summit of Things event this October, which is pretty exciting. And I just submitted an article for CIO Look magazine that will be featured, and that is the emerging or the the one. Let me just back that up really quick. It is the ethical implications of emerging technologies, and I'm also going to be honored as one of the 10 most influential women in marketing for 2023 by CIO Look magazine. So, also very exciting.
Awesome. That's great. You deserve every bit of that honor, Tiffany. You're just the greatest.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
And now back to today's topic, which is companionship. And what is companionship? Well, companionship is a feeling or fellowship of friendship. And companionship is also associated with the love and companionship of marriage. And I was curious about companionship. Is it considered a want or a need? Because we've talked a lot about that in our different episodes about really separating our wants from our needs. So I was wondering, what is companionship? Is it a want or a need? And it's actually a human need. And it establishes a sense of belonging. And having a companion in life, whether they are a relative, friend, or carer, helps keep the mind active, prevent social isolation, loneliness, and serious mental conditions. So very, very valuable to have companionship in your life, and
Mhm.
it's necessary. What does companionship mean to you, Dr. Joe?
Well, that's an excellent question, Tiffany. Um, Companionship often looks like, let's see, desire to spend time together, someone to go on adventures to new places with. It means loyalty, someone to hang out with and meet others, someone always up for having some fun, someone to provide comfort and a listening ear, and ultimately unconditional love. You know, I I don't see companionship as a fleeting desire or a want, but a need, as you said. It's something that's ingrained into our very being as humans. Maybe even woven into the fabric of our existence. And I don't think it's going too far for me to say that it nourishes our souls. You're able to find solace in the presence of another living, breathing human being, knowing that you are not alone in this big, vast world that we live in. It's something that fortifies us against the perils of social isolation and the gnawing grip of loneliness. We could exchange thoughts and ideas when we're in the company of others, keeping our minds agile, fueling our intellectual growth and broadening our perspectives. We need not one, but we need that extra stimulation that companionship brings, Tiffany. We need to be challenged and inspired. But you know what? It's not it's not just for what we can get out of a companionship. It's also about what we can give as well. I mean, sure. Yeah. We um we have a support system that's going to help us, right? And there's someone around that we can lean on, and someone with whom we can share our burdens. But we also have the opportunity to take on someone else's burdens, to try to share their load, and to try to make their day brighter. Now, to me, Tiffany, I get a great deal of satisfaction when I know that because I have extended a helping hand, somebody else is going to be better off because of it. Now, I don't really know who said this. I don't know if it might have been Ralph Waldo Emerson, or I don't know, some obscure writer. I have no idea. But I have heard this quote before, and I really like it. It goes something like this: In the symphony of human existence, companionship is the melody that brings harmony to our souls. How cool is that, right? Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. How do you see it, Tiffany?
Well, I love that, Dr. Joe, and I definitely see it as a two-way street, as you were kind of leaning towards there. That it's not just what you can get out of it, but it's also what you can give to a companionship
Yep.
relationship. So, definitely love that. And for many, companionship can be found in friendship, and it's about having a companion to do things with, like go for a walk, go to a movie, out to exercise, go shopping. And companionship is like a friendship. It's just a very stable friendship. It's about growing a sense of trust and security and loyalty, as you mentioned. And my first friendship that grew into companionship began in seventh grade. And that was with a fellow classmate named Janessa. And do you know what, Dr. Joe?
Hmm.
She is still one of my best friends today.
Aw, that's
And although
neat.
I moved across the country and she stayed in my hometown, I talk to her quite frequently and visit her every Christmas when I go home. And she even came out to Vegas to visit me and brought her daughter. And the bigger picture is that all through my life, when I faced challenges and I needed that sense of companionship, she was there. And it's
Hmm.
a friendship that just grew into this amazing relationship and companionship where no matter how long it's been since I talked to her, I could pick up the phone and it was like we just talked yesterday. We could just pick up right on the same path. And there's so many other friends that I have that same friendship and companionship is there where it's just like we didn't miss a beat. And I'm curious, have you ever had a friend like that, Dr. Joe, that has
Oh my
helped
goodness.
you have companionship in the past?
Oh my goodness. Well, Tiffany, I've got a neat story for you there. So, more than 40 years ago, more like 45 or so, I was a freshman in high school. I was a new kid. It was a new school, and I was a new kid. And there was this one senior guy named Ron. He was really popular, played on both the football and the baseball teams. Now, we didn't really talk a whole lot to each other. I mean, he's a senior, I'm a freshman, but still, he was a really nice guy, and he had actually gotten lunch for me a couple of times, which was great. This was a private school, so one of the study classes had everyone from all grades in the high school, from freshman through senior. in the same room, this big old room. I was trying to get the jump on my homework, so I kind of had my head buried in my books, not really paying a whole lot of attention to what was going on around me. So anyway, Ron sneaked up to me, sneaked up behind me where I was studying, and kicked the back of my chair, scared the living daylights out of me. I mean, I had no idea why he did it, but okay, I thought, okay, well, he's just joking around because he's already a nice guy. I didn't think anything of it. I went back to my study. Well, a few minutes later, he came back and did the same thing again. He still scared me. I jumped a mile, it scared me to death. One of my books went flying, and kids around me started giggling a little bit, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, Ron was nearly twice my size, okay, but he really was a nice guy. So I kept my cool. Went back to my studying once again. Well, when he came back a few minutes later and tried this on me the third time, I lost it. I came flying out of my chair. Adrenaline was really flowing. Yeah, I couldn't believe I did this, as big as he was. I pushed this guy across the room and literally lifted him up, body slammed him on the floor, catching him and everybody else around me totally by surprise because he was so much bigger than me. Well, just as I was about to slam my fist into his face, the assistant principal and one of the other teachers somehow managed to pull me off of him, and they sent us both downstairs to the principal's office. All right. As we were going down the stairs, I'd already started calming down a bit because, well, to be honest with you, again, Ron had been nice to me all along that whole year up to that point, and even now, he started whispering a very contrite, genuine, heartfelt apology to me. Um, so when the principal questioned us, uh, honestly, I kind of felt bad about losing my temper so quickly. I mean, I don't know, maybe overreacting a bit. I mean, yeah, to be honest, yes, he did mess with me 3 different times, but still, I lost my cool. And I was explaining to the principal what happened and how I should have kept my cool and that kind of thing. Trying to be nice about it. You got to remember something, Tiffany. This was back in the day when corporal punishment was still being administered, at least in some schools. And so when the principal said that we would each be getting 5 licks or 5 swats with the paddle, well, okay, resigning myself to my fate, I stood up to, how shall I put this, assume the position, okay, and awaited my fate with gritted teeth and courage. All right. Well, to my utter shock, before anything else could happen, Ron yells out, Wait, this is all my fault, Mr. Hale. Yeah, Joe lost his cool, but I provoked him. Please, don't swat Joe, Mr. Hale. Give me his licks and mine. Wow. That totally blew me away. I was not expecting that at all. Ron took my swats. This young man grew 10 feet in my eyes that day because the very next day in our daily assembly, he apologized to me in front of the whole high school. Of course, I returned the favor, and we shook hands and everything. I mean, shoot, we even hugged for that matter. But you know what? We have never had a crossword with each other ever since. We became the best of friends, 45 years or more, and we kept in touch over the decades since then. His wife were a huge comfort to my family when my father passed away in the early 90s, and then to me and my wife and kids when my mom passed away a few years after that. And we're 500 miles apart from each other now, geographically anyway, but we still keep in touch more than 40, 45 years later. Whenever I've spoken at conferences that happen to be in Central Florida where he lives, he makes sure he clears his calendar so that he can either take me out to lunch or dinner or something, get together in some way, or get me to the airport, or anything and everything, whatever situation, whatever I need, anytime. I love his whole family and he loves mine. He's taken an interest in my family, my kids. He keeps up with my conferences. I keep up with his. We talk. He's like a brother to me, and technically we are kind of like brothers in the faith. But anyway, in all these years, Tiffany, I have never forgotten this act of kindness to me when I was just a kid. Well, I don't mean the kicking the chair part. I mean taking my licks, taking my swats. That part of the story. His mentorship to me as a believer in Christ over all these years has been invaluable. His consistent example to me as a man of faith, as a family life, as a family man who loves his family, loves his Savior, loves his fellow man. Great example of companionship, patriotism, heroism. Even though we hardly ever see each other in person, we've never forgotten each other, and still we're the best of friends after all these years. Oh, and by the way, Tiffany, nobody ever kicked my chair again after that. so, so what's your take, Tiffany?
Well, first of all, my how things can change in 40 to 50, 40 to 45 years, because to
Yeah,
even think that would happen in schools now is just
nope,
not
it
even
wouldn't happen
a
today.
question. But
That's
it's kind
right.
of sounds like just as he kind of saved you and brought you closer to God, that it also happened to him. So very
Yep.
beautiful story there, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.
And of course, for many, companionship is found through a bond with a significant other. And in doing my research and preparation, as I always do, I stumbled upon a new term, companionate love. And this
Ooh.
refers to a variety of love that's durable and fairly slow to develop and characterized by interdependence and feelings of affection, intimacy, and commitment. And companion love is also known as affectionate love, friendship based love, or attachment, because it requires time to develop fully. And this kind of love is often seen between very close friends or romantic partners who have been together for a long time. And I feel that that's what I found as my significant other, is someone that I've been good friends with for 8 years, and we've only been together for the past
Oh,
3 years. And so excited to embark on this new journey in our life and having a baby together. And it's just beautiful and amazing. And it's
oh,
something that I feel is lasting. It's not fleeting love or spontaneous love. It's got more depth than that. So I really like this term, the companionate love. And the difference between traditional marriage and companionate marriage, another term, companionate marriage, is that the
mm,
latter is based on the spouses having mutual interests and equitable roles. The primary focus is companionship rather than children or security. So it's that, the goal is to have this companion in your life. And I'm sure you have some wise words to share with us, Dr. Joe, about this and the relationship that you have with your wife. So, what are your thoughts on companionship found through a significant other, and this term of
yeah.
companionate love?
Oh my goodness, definitely, Tiffany. You know, you've probably heard me say this several times in the shows that we've done together and stuff. Besides the salvation of my very soul, my Diana, my wife, is indeed the best gift God ever gave me. She's my best friend. She's my lifelong companion, my soulmate. Well, pretty much my everything. I just love that term that you used, Tiffany, companionate love, companionate marriage. That has a ring to it. Yeah, a ring to it, right? No, yeah, right. I suppose that word could describe pretty much the love between my wife and me. We've been married now for, well, our anniversary. We just celebrated our 39th wedding anniversary last month. You know, I place more value on my Diana, my companion, more than anything else or anyone else on this whole earth. She is literally my life. And if you think about it, there's a reason why life rhymes with wife. It's true in my case. The one whom I've married, that somehow God saw fit to bless me with her. And with our mutual faith in God as the bedrock and foundation of our marriage, well, we find that to be part of the glue that sticks us together. See, we made a lifelong commitment to each other when we spoke our vows those 39 years ago when we were just kids. You know, we both intend to keep that commitment till death do us part, as they say, or for as long as ye both shall live, whichever way you want to put it. Nothing's ever going to split us apart. We take those vows seriously. But at the same time, we don't look at them as a duty, nor do either of us feel like we're being somehow obligated or forced to be companions or stay together. No, on the contrary, we were made for each other. We complete each other. We kind of, I don't know, we mesh because we're one flesh, as is taught by the Bible and other holy books. See, God commands me to love my wife as Christ loved the church. But let me tell you something, Tiffany. That's a command that I have absolutely no problems at all in obeying. 'Cause one, she's easy to love, and two, I'd love her even if God didn't tell me to. So, to quote from a line from a song that I wrote for her for our silver wedding anniversary, I say to her, "You're the one human treasure I love beyond measure," and she really is a treasure. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that we don't ever have any conflict. We do. We don't ever have any arguments. We don't ever get exasperated with each other. That's baloney. We do. Okay. Hey, that's bound to happen with any couple. I don't care how much they love each other. We live in an imperfect world full of imperfect human beings, all of whom have their own, let's see, their flaws and quirks, weird weaknesses, weirdnesses. I don't know. Is that a word? I think I just made that up. Anyway, faults, failures, shortcomings, you name it. We cannot please each other all the time. We can't do it. And as much as we might try to say, well, I'm going to get this 100% right all the time, it's just not going to happen because we're flawed. And that's why there's this thing called patience, this thing called forgiveness, this thing called understanding, love. It's knowing that in spite of all of our faults, failures, quirks, weirdnesses, whatever the word was, all those other things I said that I can't remember. We accept each other exactly the way we are, warts, wrinkles, and all. And that's part of being human, right? Whatever mistake that she might make that makes me madder than a hornet or whatever is totally squashed by the fact that I recognize that I am capable of mistakes that are just as bad, if not even worse. And most of the time they are worse, Hey, I just stop and remember all the times that she forgives me for all the dumb, stupid things I do. If I think about that and I ask myself, why shouldn't I be willing to do the same thing for her? If she can put up with all of this, okay, then certainly I can put up with her. Again, she's easy to love. Now, that might sound negative to some, but no, I'm only saying it to make a point, okay? The scenario that I just painted here is what we may be like at our worst. Okay, if even then we can accept, understand, forgive, and move on in this companionate love, then how much more should we do so when we are at our best? You see, Tiffani, sometimes we might do things that might seem hurtful. I don't know, maybe I might do it a little more than she does. I don't know. But it's only a matter of not thinking about it. We just shrug it off and say, hey, you know what? I know him. I know her. She didn't really mean it the way it sounded, or he didn't really mean to do that. Surely he had a good reason, or she had a good reason. And why do we say that? Well, because deep down, we remind ourselves my lifelong companion, my soulmate, my spouse, my companion, my life loves me more than life itself and would never, ever do anything to intentionally harm me. I believe in her. I trust her implicitly. She might say, I trust him implicitly, right? You see, that's all part of, well, how the Bible describes love in 1 Corinthians 13, one verse of which says, love thinks no evil. Whether people believe the Bible or not, I believe that in all my heart, right? I always try to see the best in her. She does the same for me. We always try to bring out the best in each other. True companionship in marriage is not the absence of problems, but rather it's the ability to peacefully, lovingly, and respectfully work through these problems, taking the other person's point of view into consideration, giving the other person the benefit of the doubt, bringing the other person's need and remembering the other person's need before our own. And that's how we can enjoy our time together. For you see, friendship and companionship right here is at the core in all this great love that we have for each other. And somehow, by the grace of God, we bless and enrich each other in our fulfilling partnership, our companionship throughout this journey of life that we're taking together. So that's how I see it. What
Thanks,
about you,
Dr.
Tiffany?
Joe. That's beautiful. And although for some, trusting others and developing a relationship or companionship can be a difficult thing, you seem to make it sound so easy. But for
Well,
some people,
it's not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
but some people do struggle. I mean, personally, I grew up with my dad, and he had this one piece of advice that he would just enforce in my head constantly. And it was trust no one. Trust no one, Tiffani. Tiffani, trust
Yeah.
no one. I mean, all through my life, every phone call. And did you want to say anything to Tiffany, Dad or Mike? That's what my mom would say. It's trust no one. Always remember, trust no one. And if I would have really taken that to heart, it would have been even more difficult for me to have any valuable and meaningful relationship in my life. But thank goodness that I didn't listen completely to that advice. Although I know he meant well, and it had some kind of deeper meaning that I should don't trust strangers and things like that. But
Right.
you have to let your guard down at some point. And how lonely would life be if you never trusted anyone? And so
Amen.
still keeping this advice in the back of my mind after moving to Las Vegas, I have to say my guard was still up, and I wasn't quite ready to open up and go trusting everyone. It's a new place. I don't have any family out here, but I knew that I needed companionship. So I got a pet, and the pet was exactly what I needed. I adopted from a local animal foundation, and she gave me the sense
Oh,
of companionship that I never even knew a pet could provide. And it was just the bond that we shared. It was support and stability and safety. It gave me confidence, and she was there to keep me company and comfort me during times of sorrow and make me laugh. And eventually she even showed me unconditional love. And I feel like that was the first time I really, besides like my parents and my grandma, like the first time I really understood unconditional love was with that cat.
oh,
So for anyone that struggles with building relationships, I highly recommend starting with a pet for companionship. And maybe not every pet is going to give you the same sense of companionship. I am fortunate enough. I mean, I had dogs growing up, and there was companionship there, but it was different. But when I was here and I was by myself and I had my cat, it was truly this meaningful sense of companionship. And then my cat died, and I was destroyed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose it. And so you have to get back on the bike, and so I know it might have seemed pretty quick that I got another cat, but I Legend is her name, and so she also gives me that same sense of companionship. So it's hit or miss with pets. Not every pet's gonna be able to give you that sense of companionship. I was lucky enough to get two in a row, so I definitely suggest anybody struggling with making that human connection to try out a pet. But have you ever had a pet, Dr. Joe? And how do you feel about the companionship that can be found with a pet? Or do you know someone that has a pet?
yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah. Well, my family had a German Shepherd dog named Snipper when I was very little. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. But poor thing got hit by a car and didn't live for very long after that. And that was such a traumatic experience in my early childhood that well, we couldn't really bring ourselves to have another dog, and it remained that way for a number of years. But we finally did get a second dog, and it was a German Shepherd too. I named him Shepherd. Excuse me, Chester. I had a weird thing about pet names, but anyway, Chester. Oh man, he was a great dog. We'd go running together. We'd play catch. Well, catch. No, maybe not really exactly catch. I mean, he didn't have any hands. He had paws, but not hands. So we never really caught the ball unless maybe he would catch it in his mouth every now and then. But whatever you want to call it, the game where you throw the ball, dog goes running after it, he grabs it in his mouth, catches it or not, whichever, and then he brings it back to you.
It's
Yeah,
fetch.
fetch, fetch. Yeah, that's it. Rinse and repeat. Fetch, go fetch. Right. Anyway, those were good times. Um, but yeah, just as you described with your two cats, Chester provided unconditional love and loyalty for me. But not all pets are like that. I mean, I suppose they each would give affection in their own ways. Different breeds within the same animal do the things differently. Different animals do things differently. Just because a cat doesn't pant with his tongue hanging out, and a dopey yet adorable look on its face, that doesn't mean it doesn't give affection. It gives affection in its own way. But some of the best parts of the whole pet experience are knowing that they're going to be around to greet us with excitement when we come home. Some more than others offer comfort in time of need in their own way and remind us of the simple pleasures of life. Not only that, but they can be pretty nice and warm on a cold day, unless it's a snake. But yeah, four-legged members of the family. It is my son and his wife had a couple of dogs, and they still have dogs. They're lovable dogs, goofy as all get out, but very affectionate. My wife and I call them our grandpups. Okay, furry fosters or something like that. But one day, my older son was waxing eloquent. I love what he said. He said, "They are forever etching their paw prints on our souls." I just loved it when he said that. I don't know where he came up with that, but anyway, you have whatever. What further thoughts do you have on that?
Well, Dr. Joe, I think that you really, I know we say this a lot, hit the nail on the head when you were talking about different animals being able to give you companionship and affection in different ways. Because
Right.
when I lost Kitty, which is I have a funny thing about naming pets as well. She had the traditional tail, and she had this adorable thing she would do where she would take her tail and just interlace it within my arm, and she would just sleep with it
Aw.
wrapped around, and it was so adorable. But I didn't want to get the same cat because I didn't want to just try to replace her. And so I decided to
Right.
get a Highlander bobcat. And so she's got a short tail and she could actually play catch because she's polydactyl and has opposable thumbs. But um, with her, she didn't have the same tail. And I thought, how is she going to be able to give me the companionship and love that I had with my previous cat if she doesn't even have a full tail? And my boyfriend said, no, maybe she'll just show you love in a different way. And she was pretty
Hmm.
adorable. So I decided to give it a try. And I'll tell you what, that short little tail has really grown on me. She definitely affection and companionship. So,
That's cute.
but
That's
family
cute.
relationships are another form of companionship. And whether that's your mother,
Mhm.
father, brother, grandparent, seniors, especially, they're the most prone to lack companionship. And it can lead to extreme loneliness and isolation, especially during COVID. We saw that. And it's important to
Yeah.
keep that in mind if you have aging members of your family. And we all get old one day. So it's important to offer companionship to the elderly, especially if they're family. And I'm excited to experience the companionship of a child for the first time. So while this is something new to me, and it can definitely seem a little scary, I've attended a lot of classes, so I'm feeling a little more confident about it. I'm really looking forward to this. And I know that teaching and practicing companionship for my child will take patience and listening and providing emotional and social support. And I plan to offer plenty of hugs and hold their hand and be there for them when they have questions or face difficulties. But I want to be a means of support and safety for them, and that enables them to have self
Yeah.
esteem and confidence in forming friendships and relationships and companionship with others besides just me. So, as a father, do you have advice that you could share about companionship, Dr. Joe?
Oh man, and I've been a father for a very long time. uh, you know, Tiffany, how can I put this? There is nothing like looking into the eyes of another living, breathing human being and knowing that you're pretty much looking at your own face, even if they don't look that much like you. But when I do that, I'm looking at a life, okay? A life that my wife and I created from the unfathomable love that we have to each other. And the result of that everlasting sweet love is a unique, conscious, living individual who's going to live out his own life and take his own path and one day possibly they may follow in your own footsteps or not to one way or another to some degree or another. He might share a few characteristics or many of your own characteristics or perhaps none. uh, he may one day decide to create a new life of his own and make you a grandparent. Okay, now that's a whole nother ball game for another time. But you use the word child. Okay, to some would imply when you think child, you think a little kid. But you know what? Not necessarily. My boys are in their late 20s and early 30s, and each one I still consider to be my child, even though they're both bigger than me. Okay, and they are taller than me, and there's still companionship. It just evolves throughout the years in different stages. It'll still be father and son, right? It'll always be father and son, father and child. Okay, but the specifics change, the situation changes, the dynamic changes. In the early years, it's a bond of tender care and being constantly there, constantly present. You'd provide that same safe harbor of companionship where the child feels nurtured and loved unconditionally, as you so aptly put out. The parent guides, plays with the child, fostering a sense of trust and security, which a little child desperately needs. Well, for that matter, we all need that security, but especially a child desperately needs that security. So as the child grows, the companionship is going to evolve into, well, I don't know, more like a partnership. Still provide guidance, still provide wisdom and encouragement as they reach adolescence or teenage years or whatever. And as a father, I listened to my growing child. I listened, I celebrated their achievements, I strengthened their self confidence. I tried to set the example and show him, both of them, the life the life lessons, the values that would be cemented into his own moral values. I started enlarging the boundaries, letting out a little bit more string, kind of like, oh, I don't know, like a kite that you coax into flight, higher and higher, you let out more string, right? Helping to get him ready to handle more and more independence as he continues growing. And then he goes on into adulthood, where both of them are now. He may or may not go off to college. He might eventually set out on his own, find his own significant other, as both of mine have, and start his own household, both with my blessing and with the blessing and grace of God. So now, okay, right now, this companionship takes on a whole new dimension, totally different, transitioning into more of a friendship built on mutual respect, still unconditional love. That hadn't changed, it never will, and a deep, deep understanding. Even at their age, my boys can still share their deepest hopes and dreams with me anytime they want. They can still ask me whatever they want to ask me. And no, it's not always going to be for money. Sometimes it might be, and that's okay, but almost never, thank God. But, whatever the case, these guys both know that they will always have my love, my support, my guidance, everything. That love and support is absolutely unwavering, absolutely unconditional. I will always have their back. And you know what? They will always have my back. So, you see, Tiffani, it doesn't matter what stage of life they're in. The essence of this companionship that we've been talking about, familial companionship, is a profound connection that transcends time, symbolizing an unbreakable bond and a lifelong source of love, guidance, and strength. And you know what, my dear friend? You, you are about to begin on that journey yourself when your little one comes into this world. Oh, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever in my mind, Tiffani, that you are going to do an amazing life, an amazing job when your companionship with your very own child begins very shortly. Your thoughts?
I love it, Dr. Joe. And I think it's all kind of funneled into a new term that I've just kind of come up with in my mind: unconditional companionship.
Woo! Love it.
Because
Yes.
it's the companionate love, it's a companionate marriage in some aspects, it's the family, but it all comes down to this unconditional companionship. And so that's what we need to keep in mind when we're programming the robots, because with the rise of
Oh
AI
boy.
and chat
Yep.
GPT technology, which is also aiming to provide companionship, we need to make sure that it's unconditional companionship, and that companionship is their first and only and always go-to setting, and not
Hmm.
Terminator mode. Okay.
Right.
So if you're watching this and you're programming AIs, let's keep this in mind, people. Because in recent years, we've seen an increase in nanny robots and robots
Mhm.
for assisting the elderly. But does it really have the same companionship that a real person does? I mean, companion technology is an emerging field that crosses a disciplinary research aiming at a paradigm shift in human technology interaction. It is intended to enable technical systems of any kind to appear as individual, competent, and empathetic assistants to their users. Not quite the same as a human, though. The targeted companion systems are cognitive technical systems that smartly adapt their services to both individual needs of users, their capabilities, preferences, and requirements, and their current situation, emotion, and disposition. I mean, I got to give them credit. I see where they're going with this, but I just don't ever
Sure.
see where it's going to be a replacement for the interaction that another human being can bring. And I've even heard of efforts for AI to read stories to kids using the voice of a deceased relative. not only is this very confusing for a child, let's just
Oh,
leave it at that. It's very confusing for a child. I mean,
yeah.
I've got mixed feelings about this because while the efforts to use technology to fill a companionship void may seem noble, I think it's better that we form relationships and see companionship from living beings.
Yeah.
And we all have to see what happens as technology continues to evolve. But for now, I encourage you to form real relationships with real people and with family members and with pets to gain the same sense of trust and love that companionship can provide. I don't see technology as a replacement for this. I just don't. I know where they're trying to go, and I know there's people that don't have a lot of other options, but Chat GPT cannot replace hanging out with your
Mm-mm.
friend. It can't
Nope.
replace hanging out with your sibling. I mean, if you're deciding on, let's see, should I talk to Chat GPT tonight or should I have a conversation with my family? Pick up the phone and call your family. Go have dinner with your family.
Amen.
This is a no brainer here for me. What are your thoughts, Dr. Joe?
No brainer. Yeah, no brainer for me too, Tiffany. I tell you what, um, I couldn't agree with you more, Tiffany. Yeah, the um, the evolution of AI, this companion technology to which you referred, it does indeed raise some fascinating questions about the fascinating role of technology in trying to provide some sort of artificial companionship. Now, as you called it, noble. I agree. The efforts are noble, and some advocate the approach. They truly mean well. I think many of them do. And technology might be able to bridge some gaps and does offer some assistance. But just like you so eloquently said, there is no way that technology can replace real companionship with real people. I mean, sure, technology can offer convenience, efficiency, and maybe even what might be passable for simulated empathy in some way, maybe. But to fully replicate all the various nuances and intricate complexities of real human companionship, nope, not a chance. No way. See, real relationships, real companionships, as you encourage us to have with real living beings, whether you're talking about family members, friends, or pets, again, as you mentioned, the different facets that we've been exploring in this episode. These provide a genuine sense of trust, love, and emotional connection that cannot possibly be replicated by technology. Not at all. There's a difference between simulation and replication. You know, maybe, just maybe, in some limited sense, companionship systems that you referred to, I don't know, they might have their merits in some context in a limited way. Some might bring up the philosophy, hey, something is better than nothing, but nah, it's still absolutely vital to prioritize and nurture real relationships, fostering meaningful connections that are going to continue to enrich our lives and fulfill our natural built-in normal human need for companionship like we've talked about. Again, there is no way that you're going to get all that from a machine. Ultimately, hey, it's through the genuine interaction and bonds that you and I've been talking today, Tiffany, that we'll be able to find profound understanding, empathy, and shared experiences that truly are going to continue to shape us as individuals. Hey, that's the way God made us. And even if technology somehow, someday improves enough and gets sophisticated enough to offer something that might one day pass for simulated companionship to some people, still, no, it still pales in comparison to the real warmth and relationship in which our souls find their true companionships. Back to you, Tiffany.
And it comes down to the human touch, also, Dr. Joe, because I mean, think about
Yes.
a hug. How many neurons and things that are going
Right.
on in the universe when you give someone a hug?
Yeah.
Sorry, but a robot's not going to be able to do the same thing. Shake someone's hand,
No.
look them in the eyes. It's just different. So,
Exactly.
with that,
The
I encourage
spark.
everyone to go
That's
out
right.
and
The
give
spark
someone a
is not there.
hug, a handshake. Feel the human touch. It'll bring you back to that
Yeah.
sense of companionship. And if you don't have a companion that you feel that is in your life that is, really impactful, if you can't think of one person, then by God, go out and meet someone today and just keep meeting people
Absolutely.
until you meet someone that is up your alley. There are groups that you can go to, there's sporting events. There, find some people that are interested in what you're into and make some real connections with real people in the flesh. By God, give those people a hug today.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. There's nothing, there's no spark there when it's just a machine. And as you said it to me, I'll say it to you. You hit the nail on the head once again.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. And thank you all for watching. And we hope that you have a blessed day. And we'll be taking a month off as I embark on my journey to motherhood. So,
Woohoo!
for joining us, and we wish you the best. We'll be back in a month. Well, not next
Absolutely.
month. We'll be skipping a month, but the next month we'll be back with more. So thank you for joining us. And we are looking for sponsors. If anyone would be interested in being featured in our content, please reach out to us about that. And as always, thank you so much, Dr. Joe. It's been an incredible conversation. And I look
Oh,
forward to
thank
our next one.
you. Thank you so much, Tiffany. You are just an incredible co host, and quite soon, an even more incredible mommy. Wishing you all the best as you embark into this new journey, bringing you that sweet little boy into the world.
Thanks, Dr. Joe. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye bye.